Story 1. I get paid to search company phone numbers all day and add them into a spreadsheet. I can't believe my job exists. Edit. Oh, and the best part is that my job title is data analyst. Story 2. My friend works for a very large company that has 8 levels of management above him in information technology. They have 6-figure management jobs that oversee about 3 to 5 IT employees. The manager above them oversees 3 to 5 managers, and so on. He says that with his job, he can have 7 different levels of management, and no one cares what one level says. Things can instantly change depending on random decisions made by any of them. Story 3. There is an entire book about this. The author said one job he encountered involved waiting for a carpenter to fix shelves at the university where he worked. The carpenter had so many requests that the university hired someone to apologize for the delay. Another aspect of a meaningless job is being so disliked by your supervisor that you are assigned less and less work to the point you walk off the job for 6 years and nobody notices until they are ready to give you an award. This seems ridiculous until you learn that it actually happened. Story 4. In 2016, I was hired at $13.50 per hour to stand at an intersection and point in the direction runners were supposed to go in a 5-kilometer race. There must have been a shortage of arrow signs. Story 5. In India, people get milk from vending machines, and there is someone whose job is to stand there and watch people get milk. Story 6. Influencers in general, especially those who are just there to be attractive in nice landscapes, vary widely. There are many content creators who produce good entertainment and ideas. However, there are also many attractive people who earn significant income by promoting a fake existence. Story 7. Software developer here. When I finish a task in the project management tool, I move it to ready to test. Immediately after that, the system sends an email to all interested parties. 2 seconds later, a manager emails me to ask about the status of my task. It really frustrates him when you don't respond because you literally just received an email stating the status. Story 8. I handle pharmacy reconciliation. The insurance company's databases, as well as the pharmacies, are poorly managed. The way they interact creates such confusion that the company I work for exists to reconcile prescriptions with payments. I also support the account analyst. My job takes 20 to 30 minutes because I created very efficient macros. My manager is somewhat aware that I have a fast internet connection and assigned me a database cleanup task that would take over 40 years to complete, so I do not really do it as it seems pointless. I work from home and earn about $170 per hour. Story 9. That one person in every corporate office with a generic manager title who does no actual work all day and is paid a large salary. Every company has at least one. Story 10. Those TikTok creators who do low-quality endorsements with products, what is the reason for that? I saw a random person with 46,000 followers, and half of the posts were commercials. I don't understand it. Story 11. I have always wondered about life coaching, but maybe it's just the name. Okay, now today I want you to keep breathing. Story 12. The man with a clipboard sitting on a foldable chair outside the chain link fence is counting trucks coming in and out. This role is called a traffic checker. Story 13. I do special projects for members of the Chief Executive Officer suite in pharmaceutical companies. I have worked with a number of chief financial officers, company presidents, and chief executive officers. There is rarely any substance to any of them. They usually put on a front of phony confidence for about 99% of the day, but behind closed doors, they are emotionally unstable and often scared or incredibly foolish. The closer you get to the top, the more you see it is all built on hype. Fortune 10 companies just talk and make bad choices all day, and when things fail, they either get removed by the board within a year with a large payout worth millions, or they stay on, fire all the people they managed and relied on, and then start over with trial and error at scale. Chief Executive Officer suite members are worthless and not worth anything close to what they get paid. Story 14. I cannot believe my job exists. I am basically being paid $17,000 per year to do nothing. Mostly busy work and the tasks the manager does not want to do, but sometimes literally nothing. They told me I was being hired as a dispensing optician. That is what I was trained to do, but that is not actually the job they hired me for. There is no way they could have told anyone the actual job because probably no one would take it if they were honest. The manager is very lazy and just wanted someone to come in and do all the grunt work she does not want to do. Cleaning, inventory, filing, and keeping things organized. There is not enough of that work to fill the schedule they hired me for. I spend about 25% of my work week doing actual optician duties, 25% doing grunt work, and the other 50% literally doing nothing. I sit around listening to the radio and waiting for customers to come in. When I work alone, I am on my phone most of the time. I have sat in the lab, browsing social media and dozing off for as long as 3 hours straight. If I doze off, the door alarm wakes me whenever a customer comes in. Story 15, Recruiters. I recently had a phone interview with a recruiter who called from an unfamiliar area code. She did not ask me any questions about my knowledge of cars and their related parts. What's your biggest accomplishment? I sold a lot of car parts last month. What's something you're proud of? I know a lot about car parts. I did not get a follow-up interview. I doubt anyone at the local dealership even knew I applied for the job. It was ridiculous. Story 16. Any doctors here? When you were doing your residency, did you receive emails from local hospitals about employment opportunities after finishing school? Those generic emails about the hospital, the town, and loan repayment options? That was me. Story 17. Okay, maybe more dream retirement job versus meaningless job, but there are national park employees at Assateague Island who drive golf carts around the parking lots and spray the horses with water guns. The horses will not leave visitors alone as they try to pack or unpack their cars, hoping to steal food. Story 18. Toilet Tester. I get paid to have bowel movements and write reports on how practical the toilet is. I work 10-hour shifts. Story 19. Luxury Ice Cube Influencer. Yes, it is real. Yes, they review frozen water for a living. Yes, I am questioning all my life choices. Story 20. Chiropractors use questionable science to mislead patients and risk damaging cervical blood vessels, which can cause strokes. This practice is based on the teachings of a man who claimed to have discovered the field after being taught by a ghost. Story 21. I worked for a company called AllConnect that was terrible. They were just messing people around from start to finish. Here's the scheme. You call your electric company to tell them you moved. They tell you they can help transfer other utilities to your new place. Your electric company then directs you to AllConnect. I think I transferred somebody's utilities once. What we got paid to do was harass power customers to get them to sign up for internet service at their new home. Sometimes the power company would tell customers, "Let me get you transferred so they can finalize this for you," and then they passed me the call. My job was to sell them services. Felt sleazy from start to finish, so I quit. Story 22. George Jetson's job was being a literal button presser. I personally believe the theory that the buttons were not actually attached to anything and that he was living in a dystopian future where jobs like his were just made up to give bored humans a purpose in life. Even his job title sounds fake. Digital Index Operator. Story 23. When there is a parking garage with automated payment machines at the exit, and someone is standing there operating the machine for you. Story 24. A celebrity book curator is someone celebrities hire to select books for them, not necessarily to read, but to be photographed holding. A regular book curator is hired by someone with a private library space to select books to fill their shelves. Dream job, to be honest. Story 25. President. No job requirements whatsoever, age and natural-born status notwithstanding. Lowest bar to entry of any job anywhere. Felons, drug addicts, and pedophiles are welcome. Corruption is accepted. Story 26. It is not a meaningless job by any means, but if you think about it, it is a little insane that acting exists. Story 27. I sit in a room 12 hours a day and assist a person with personal care when needed. That is essentially my entire job. The person is not wealthy and has severe disabilities, with fairly low health needs aside from bowel issues. The government compensates me, but the amount is modest. I do not enjoy my life. Story 28. In Japan, they have human traffic cones in addition to actual traffic cones. They also have human traffic lights in addition to normal traffic lights. When the light turns green, they indicate that the light is green. They do red lights as well. Whenever construction is going on, it is surrounded by a group of elderly people in vests and helmets who are not actively working. Story 29. A white man wearing a tie and holding a clipboard is walking around a Chinese factory, pretending to look busy. This will increase the company's valuation when investment bankers arrive to analyze it. Story 30. Many executive-level jobs involve hiring people who are more skilled to perform the work and occasionally making decisions that those hires could easily make collectively. It is surprising that society often views these executives as the hardest working in a company when they demonstrably do the least. The employees at the middle and lower levels of the company actually do the work, while top executives act important and ensure their responsibilities are managed by those they hire or by people hired by their appointees. Story 31. I set the rates and fees on subprime loans. One unexpected benefit is how readily customs officers believe me when I say I am traveling for vacation. Story 32. OnlyFans chatters. Basically, the model pays someone to reply to messages, flirt, and try to upsell the subscribers to a higher tier package if there is one, all while pretending to be the model and copying their texting habits. It is strange, but I understand the reasoning. Story 33. Human resources are the people responsible for managing employee relations and recruitment. They serve as the first point of contact, deciding if a candidate is worthy of further consideration. Human resources professionals are essential members of every organization. Review their resumes to understand their expertise. Story 34. The elderly women at Sam's Club who inform you that the artificial intelligence security system has approved your exit with your belongings. Story 35. Leadership with a Master of Business Administration working for a large company often appear disengaged from staring at spreadsheets and being on non-stop virtual meetings. They become hesitant and collectively make poor, uninformed decisions, including inconsistent, impractical ideas and poorly executed plans. There is a sense of one-upmanship, creating a pyramid scheme of mutual praise and delusion. However, they can travel by plane and dine at moderately upscale chain restaurants in their uncomfortable, dry-cleaned clothes. Every 2 years, they move on to another role or company, leaving a trail of disruption behind them. Story 36. I work for one of the largest university systems in the world. I met a woman whose full-time job is to write thank-you notes to donors. She oversees 2 people. One writes notes for donations under $5,000. The other handles donations of $5,000 and up. She wishes she had a third person to help. Another part of her job is going to the president's house monthly to help hand-sign birthday cards and decide who is worthy of receiving a birthday card signed by the president. Story 37. Real estate agents take 3 to 6% as a sales commission for facilitating transactions between 2 parties who have already found each other online. It is better to buy your house through an attorney. Story 38. Door greeter at any location. Often elderly individuals standing on a concrete floor without the option to sit down. Story 39. I am not well informed on this, so maybe someone else can explain. However, I saw online a view of people who report trucks for idling in New York, and they receive a portion of the fine. Apparently, some people do it enough that they do it for a living. Story 40. In the United States, there is a staff member in hospitals who collects all patient satisfaction surveys, compiles the data, includes the comments, and sends it to the Vice President of Patient Care, which is the new title for Vice President of Nursing. This data collector is a nursing graduate at the bachelor's level or higher. The Vice President of Patient Care then sends the data with strongly worded emails to managers, instructing them to improve. The managers, in turn, send strongly worded emails to the bedside nurses. Bedside nurses have very little control over patient survey responses because they cannot control patients' illnesses or make them completely comfortable, as the patients are sick. Story 41. I worked on a farm when I was young. The first job they gave me was drilling pigtails with a very powerful drill. They said if I could handle that, the rest would be easy. I believed it until I had to help breed a horse. Story 42. Baby name consultant. Play specialist. Professionals who teach parents how to play and interact with their children. Story 43. Door to door with no shame. I will explain myself better. Once inside the house and after showing a specific tangible product to some people, the frustrating part is asking them for their friends or family members' phone numbers just to go to their house and show the product. That is very embarrassing. When you act in that shameless way, people start to dislike you, and they have every right to do so, no matter who you meet during those workdays. I did that job for 2 months. I will never do it again. Never. Some jobs are driven by greed. In that case, I was exploited by the agency I worked for. Lies upon lies. Yes, it became personal. Just choose your jobs wisely, even during the worst moments of your financial life. True value comes from within, not from external things. That was a terrible job. Story 44. Those people who create websites explaining other people's videos to me as if I cannot understand them myself. Some even read scripts that are displayed on the screen, assuming I cannot read. Please create something new and worthwhile. Story 45. Corporate organizational consultant. Mine old company hired one. They bought storage containers and put items in them. There were no systems or help with workflow. They just repackaged things and gave insights like, the files will look cleaner in a box. She was frustrating, charging $75 an hour to provide clear storage containers. Story 46. I was hired by a startup company. I was going to sell their product. They hired me early before the product was ready. They kept telling me to wait. I was employed for 14 months, making close to $200,000 a year. They shut their doors and never launched a single product. Story 47. In the 1990s, my college paid the quarterback of the football team $10 an hour to count rocks on the campus. That was until he got injured, and then his grades seemed to matter. He flunked out. Story 48. Vice President of Company Spirit and New Idea Implementation. I laughed so hard when I heard that this was the title of the new hire after the business had been acquired by private equity. Story 49. Realtor. I was in a relationship with one for several years. The amount of money that person received for 15 minutes of emailing forms back and forth was absurd. Story 50. I think streaming. 20 years ago, I would never have thought playing games for others to watch would be a job. Story 51. Our receptionist waits for the phone to ring and reads magazines. She stares out the window. She will be laid off next week once we install our new automated phone system. About time. Story 52. The people who stop you at the entrance to the grocery store to promote a cause. This strategy makes me actively avoid and dislike the charities that participate. I feel bad, so I say hello, but I am not going to stop walking under any circumstances. Story 53. Whatever the job was of the women who went with the dishonest company owner to cheat at a Coldplay concert, that is my answer. Story 54. Phone scammers, I am sure it is lucrative, but if a friend of mine ever told me they were working a job like that, I would turn them in immediately. Story 55. We have an intern in the marketing department at the company where I work whose job is to search social media for posts about the company and like them or make positive comments. Story 56. Corporate motivational speakers get paid thousands to say recycled lines you could find in a 5-minute YouTube video. Story 57. Most manager jobs, especially middle management positions, are slightly higher than regular manager roles. There is often an unqualified older person who does not understand what their employees are dealing with. Story 58. I feel like my job is not real. I am a brand representative. I visit grocery stores to ensure they have my products. I usually chat with a few managers, put up a couple of coupons, and then leave to check another store. I do not have a degree. I am salaried and provided with a company car, phone, and credit card. Story 59. My manager's spouse has had a series of jobs in administration of nonprofit organizations and charities. She generally moves on when the dishonesty, such as graft and corruption, becomes too much for her to tolerate. This seems to be a common theme in the secondhand stories I hear. I know my manager earns a good income and mentions that his wife makes more than he does, even while moving between these jobs. These positions are essentially bureaucratic management roles involving networking with local politicians and community organizations. Story 60. Car dealerships, in general, require you to order the car online for most manufacturers. Story 61. Anybody who works in human resources departments. Managers have the ability to address issues or terminate employees. I do not understand the need to pass it on to someone else who is just going to be nitpicking while they are doing their job because they have to justify their position to begin with. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.